welcome to this week's episode of Top Lines and Tales. And I'd like to think Top Lines and Tales adds a little bit of variety every week, and we very often challenge ourselves to come up with new firsts. But it's been mentioned a few times recently that we don't quite pay enough attention to the commercial livestock breeders and the commercial livestock operations in the UK and around the world there. So and this week, through our kind sponsors, Harbro, we are looking at the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year Awards. And we are fortunate enough to be able to catch up with a few of those that are shortlisted for the award, which will be announced next week at the Agriscot event. And I'm hoping to be at the Agriscot event myself. So some of these farmers, you can imagine, are very, very busy this time of year, housing cattle and such like. So I'm quite privileged to be able to catch up with a couple of those and get them on the podcast, hear why they've maybe been shortlisted and what they do in their livestock operations within Scotland. And I'm very fortunate to have caught up with James Young from Girvan Mains in Girvan in Ayrshire. And James, good morning and welcome to the podcast.
Morning. Very nice to be here. Nice to be on.
And James, congratulations on being shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year.
Thank you very much.
And
Thank you.
we're just going to try and catch up a little bit and just to see what you do there at Girvan. And Girvan, a beautiful spot there. Just you'd run down to the sea, I guess, from where you are. And for those listeners that don't know, Girvan is sort of halfway between Ayr and Stranraer on Scotland's west coast. And do you run down to the water there, James?
Yes, we're right on the water's edge. We're very, very lucky to have some of the lightest land and best land, to be fair, in the area, which is, it's lucky. We grow a lot of early potatoes on that land, and we actually get a double crop off of the land. The potatoes are planted in February, March, sometimes in January. I've seen as weather permitting in January, and then the potatoes are then listed May to mid-June, and then we'll get a stubble turnip or a Italian ryegrass in there for grazing or cutting. After that, we're quite lucky in that way.
You'll be making some of our listeners very jealous there if you can get on your land in January, that's for sure.
I don't know, if you'd seen the weather the last 3 weeks, I don't know if they were that jealous, to be fair, but we're lucky in that way, to be fair.
We're getting some interesting weather, and the Beef Farmer of Award is about progressive and forward-thinking farmers, really, who are up for a challenge, and that's kind of where you come into this. But as you said, you grow a lot of crops there as well. You grow for your home feed.
We grow a lot of cereals, winter cereals. Predominantly, we grow maize, which there's not that many people in Scotland will do either. Mm-hmm. We grow some rye as well, whole crop rye and whole crop wheat. But predominantly, we grow winter barley for feed. Uh-huh. The maize is feed as well. We invested in 2016 into an anaerobic digester, okay, which we feed predominantly with cattle muck and slurry. Right. And then it gets substituted a wee bit with maize and some rye and possibly some first cut silage as well, but predominantly all the silage is for cattle.
Okay. And let's just look at those cattle. What kind of numbers do we run? It's the suckler cows mainly and finishing cattle.
Yeah, I've just over 500 breeding cows now, and we finish 2,400, 2,500 a year.
Right.
And my own calves are included in that number. Everything's finished off farm. Selling mainly Scottish beef and ABP. Okay. We sell a few live to local butchers when required.
You'll be buying in some calves as well then to make up those numbers?
We'll try and buy forward stores really at 500 kilos-ish. Keep them ideally 100 days, okay, or less. I'm quite stringent on data. All the animals are electronically tagged, and we're using high frequency tags as well as a trial for the Scott EID, and we're weighing the animals ideally between 55 to 65 days on farm, and if an animal isn't performing, then I'm killing the animals out. whether they're ready or not. To be
Okay.
fair, just economically, there's no point holding on to poor performing animals because they're eating more than what they're putting on financially per day. So my grandpa had the saying, "Oh, you're better with half loaf than no loaf at all." So kind of stick with that and go with that. To be fair.
Okay. And sourcing those cattle must be fairly difficult, I guess, across Scotland. What sort of breeds perform best on your system?
I really like the Simmentals and Charlies. To be fair, are always good performing animals. But the more I'm into the data, the less it really matters in a way what the animal looks like, because you can have the best looking animals, but if they're not performing, then they're no good to anybody, really. So we're now knowing where to what farms to buy the animals off of, because you're getting the data over. We've only been doing it really 2.5 years, so we're getting data back for all the animals, and we know that man's animals do really well with us. They're worth probably a wee bit more to us because we know the performance is good. So the breed isn't so much necessary. It's also where you're killing the animals. If you're killing the animals, each slaughterhouse likes a different thing, to be honest with you. If you had 100 animals in a pen, 30 could suit one guy, 30 could suit another, and 40 might suit a third. But it's getting the animals as even for your market at the end of the day. When you're selecting them on data, and if they're poor performance, it's hard to get, obviously, the animals to hit the targets. But if I'm sending a load away, there's always going to be a small percentage of them having to go because they're poor performing. And you get an animal that's at its peak, then the performance comes off at that point as well. So the animals are better away when they're starting to. They've hit their maximum, and they're not going to do any more, if you know what I mean. So,
what sort of carcass weights are we looking at? Ideally, or again, is that from different outlets?
Ideally, we're looking for the bullocks to be in between the 360 to 390 mark, and generally they were hitting around about the 380, to be fair, and that's ideal. Heifers, my homebred heifers are killed. They're killed quite young, so they're only 320 to 350s, and when I wean them, they don't go back to grass, and that's through trial and error as well. I once grazed them and only gained 12 kilos extra dead weight, and that was because we had an extra 6 months to keep on them. So I didn't think the 12 kilos extra justified the 6 months. So I'm pretty stringent that way, and they get fed well and work quite closely with Jill Hunter for Harborough. She's good at giving us ideally the rations and helping us with the rations to get this peak performance, really. Okay,
and you mentioned Harbour there. They do sponsor this podcast, and you buy quite a few products, I believe, from Harbour, including the Rumatech and the Maximum. How's the Maximum work for you?
Well, I've tried Maximum a few times. I've probably had the most success with it recently. We combined some of our forage rye, and it performed very well. And we Maximum treated the grain in it, and it's a very, very good product, high in protein. So I'm aiming for that product to feed to my weaned calves, to give them a wee bit extra protein and push them on to get a bit more frame on them before they get the full finishing ration. So the Maximum's all right. I got on very well with the Rumatech product. We use that a lot in our finishing ration. We also use the Super Suckler mineral as well when we feed. When we carve down, we feed. We make up our own kind of Super Suckler, a bit of barley. It's got a bit of wheat pulp, kind of mineral. But it's actually got a bit of magnesium in it as well. And that just with the Super Suckler, it just puts a shine and a bit of rise to the cows to get them back in calve. And traditionally, we've struggled getting the younger cows back in calve. The second and third time even. So I think that product helps us in that aspect of things.
And you mentioned you work with Jill Hunter, of course. She is a nutritionist, and I think you've been doing some trial work for them at Harbour, haven't you? So they'll be benefiting from what you're doing as well.
Yes, we work with. Well, I first met Jill, and she worked with Keenan, and we run a Keenan 380 wagon, and it's got the ability to feed in different pens and feed certain animals, which is a great thing. It means we can trial different feeds and different pens, different minerals over quite large numbers.
Okay.
And having that data as well matched up with the electronic weighing data is good. And pulling it all together takes a bit of time, but it's now everyone's away from paper. It's so much easier to do.
Sure.
And it comes down to just time, getting the time to sit down and actually do it.
Of course, keeping that data always does, and computer technology is moving all the time, and it is complicated, but you get to grips with those. And you mentioned you were using the high-frequency tags there, and again, that's something that you guys have trialled, I believe. Yeah,
we've trialled the high-frequency tags for quite a while now through Scott EID, just different types of tags, how they work, how they read. And I think it is quite a good idea on that aspect of things, but I think the tags are needing a bit more investment, to be honest. I've tagged all my own calves with it now, I think, for 3 years. And we tend to find with the high-frequency part of the tag, over a long period of time, there's more losses of tags on that side of the tag where it's high-frequency. But I think a bit more investment, it's possibly the right thing to do, but we're doing low frequency as well, and that's good as well. The benefit of the high frequency tag is you can go into any pen and read the whole lot of tags, and it tells you everything, the breed, the sex, the tag number, official tag number. Now, a low frequency tag, you're only getting just a randomly generated number in a way, a bucket number. So there's great benefits to the high frequency tag as well.
Okay.
If we could get them to stay in years for a long period of time, it's the best thing.
I worked with Richie Tag many years ago, and that was our biggest bugbear. Everybody's biggest bugbear is great tags, but we've got to keep them in. That's the thing, isn't it? And,
I keep them in. Because I mean, when you've got the 100-day cattle, when you're putting the tags in and they're only there for 100 days, 120 days. I mean, they've got to really go hard at a tag to lose it in that time. But we don't have many losses in that. And when you're getting the data for our own calves, once you've lost that tag, unless you have to physically put in the number into we work with an XR 5000 but weigh head box, and you can weigh a lot of cattle if you're only scanning the tags, but as soon as you've got to hold one in the crate and punch in its number individually, it slows the whole process down. And collecting data, you want it to be a quick and easy and painless process.
Sure.
Without having to punch every number in individually. So it's a wee bit annoying when you've got one comes in and it's lost a tag. And that's what happens more often with the homebred animals because
a bit longer.
They've been in longer.
Yeah, I understand that. And just moving on, you mentioned that you sell a lot of beef through Scott Beef, and I believe you've done well in their meat exhibitions in the past there, putting some cattle through there.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough. It's always nice to take I like taking homebred animals more than bought ones, to be fair. I've done all right with a couple of homebred ones. I've not won it yet, but there is time and always hope. And this competition it's actually getting judged today as we record this podcast.
Okay.
So, by Saturday, which is tomorrow, I might be lucky enough to win. Fingers crossed, but you never know. It's something I would love to do one day, and if it was a homebred animal to do it, I'd be delighted. But yeah, you've got to be in it to win it. And
that's it.
It's a good education as well to go and see the animals live, and see them get judged live, and then go and see them all hanging up. And the ones that you want to see hanging up, you've got them in the catalogue marked, and you can go and see them, and you learn a lot that day as well. And it's definitely it's opened my eyes to different breeds of cattle, if you know what I mean. And it's not all the fancy one that hangs up the best.
No, that's very true, as you said, and that's where your data comes into that. Well, you really are in the spotlight with that competition on, and of course the Agriscot competition as well. And let's just move away a little bit from your farming side of it. You mentioned you grow potatoes there, and you're part of the Girvan early growers for Ayrshire, the new potatoes. I guess you guys are growing there, yeah?
Yes. We grow early potatoes and early salads and early main crop potatoes, and we've been involved in it for a long time. My dad started in it a very, very long time ago, 40 years, maybe 35 years ago, and I think originally there was 7 or 8 farmers locally, and it was down to price of machinery and stuff. They all work up together in a co-op. And it runs very well, and I'll be the second generation. I've got a younger brother who works in that more. Good thing about it, I've got a younger brother. He's more into the potatoes and arable stuff, turns his hand to livestock when needed, and I'm more into the livestock and less into the crops, which works very well in our scale of business. So, It's quite good. There's 5 businesses now involved in Girvan Early Growers, and we're all second generation now. My father's still the chairman, but he's the only original, one of the only original members left, to be fair, that's still involved. But I think he's got his eyes on retirement in a few years as well. So
that sounds like there's an opening there for one of you, and that's the whole ethos of the family farm, isn't it? That brothers can do different parts of the business, and you each specialise in your own area. And it sounds like a fair operation you go in there. And you mentioned your father and your mother, I think, and they've recently been involved in a charity investment as well.
They've done very, very well. They raised £70,000, 35 for RSBI and 35 for Camp Hill, which I've got a younger sister who's a resident at Camp Hill, and they celebrated their wedding anniversaries and both their 60 birthdays in the same year, and it was just an occasion to have an ease up after probably 2 years of COVID and not that much socialising. But since that, I think they're making up for it, to be fair.
A very commendable effort anyway to raise 70,000 for anything. And with regards to your business, say a family business, are you still growing? Is it the ambition still to keep moving on, trying new things?
Yes, we are still growing, working on efficiencies and having the whole digester thing along with our business is a bolt-on part of the business that runs very well with the beef enterprise, and ideally there's growth in all sectors of our business, but the costs the way they are now, what's the right sector to grow in? Maybe if I had a dairy farm, that would be maybe the one that I would be thinking about growing now, the way that the price of things are. But we're always pushing on and want to try and do more. Particularly if I can make more profit at it, it would be easier to grow. But it's a strange time now, I would say, in agriculture. Cost of living crisis is putting a lot of pressure in supermarkets and putting a lot of pressure back to the farmers to try and
cut costs.
Cut costs, really, and they want food for less money, and I don't know, the only way to do that is being more efficient, really, and that's what we're trying to do with all aspects of the way of what we're doing, to be fair. But it's hard.
It is hard. Well, obviously you've been singled out, as I said, for the Agriscot. And just one quick question on the cattle: are they all indoor housed? All of these? I mean, how many cattle do you keep at one time when you're turning them around?
Yeah, all the finishing animals are finished indoors. Obviously, the cows and calves are out. I wean a lot of my cows. We've rented a lot of land from the local estate, Clean Estates. And I've got quite a large scope of land, not that far away, 9 miles really from main hub, Girvan Mains. and there's about 1,300 acres there, and that is a godsend to keeping cows out of the 900 odd acres of rough hill. And we managed to wean the calves and get the cows away out to that hill, or certainly the beefier type cows away out to that hill. And we started breeding, with the beef sucklers. A lot of them traditionally were Frisian cross limousines, good square wee black cows. And we are slowly moving on. We're trying to breed a lot of our own replacements using Salarian Angus, and we're working our way into more hardier type cows that can withstand more winter weather.
Sure.
We run two kind of separate herds, run them 350 calving in the spring, and about 120-30 in the autumn. And the 120-30, they run outside all the time on the shore land, on maize stubbles, on some of the sandy land. I've got 2 lots now on stubble turnips, and they're getting a wee bit of silage, but they're getting fresh turnips every day as well with grazing them. And generally it works well. And if it wasn't for maize in our crop rotation, we would have to do less of that. The maize doesn't get sown to mid-May, so you've got a bit of time for the fields to
recover,
to dry and recover a wee bit. And we're very lucky that we're dry where we are at Girvan Mains, and it sometimes looks dirty, but it's dry, if you know what I mean. The maize stubbles are easy. It's just sand, basically. You go out some of these fields with your slippers on in the winter time, and you'll be all right, if you know what I mean. It just sometimes doesn't look that great for the road.
Sure. And do you run the cattle run on slats inside the ones?
All the finishing cattle run on straw beds. We've got a cubicle shed for when I wean my calves. The leaner cows come down into cubicles, and the fatter cows and beef fed cows stay out. So there's cubicles there, but I try and keep as many cows out as I can. I'll have a quarter of my cows out all the time, or not all the time, but out till Christmas, and then it'll get to about half, and then by February I'll have 3/4 of them in ready for calving, with the autumn ones still out. We calve everything inside on straw. Just it's easy for managing, especially that time of year. And then we also bring in the autumn ones to calve just for management purposes again. They could be in for the first one calves normally in for a day or two, and then out, if you know what I mean, straight away. So
Sure. You must have a fair spread of buildings to handle that lot there, and I guess your buildings again are important. You develop them all the time. Buildings change, don't they? Modern buildings come in.
Yes, they do change, and we're currently we're in the process of trying to do a new setup for some of the cows and some finishing animals, but the cost implications of that are mad now, to be fair. The way things have went the last year. But fingers crossed it'll pay back one day.
Well, fingers crossed for yourself, James. I appreciate you being busy running all that lot there, and fingers crossed for yourself, as you said yourself, for the Scottish Scott Beef Premier Meat exhibition, and more to the point for Agriscot next week. And I'll be there at Agriscot on the Harborough stand myself, so maybe pop in and we'll say hello.
I'll pop in and I'll have a coffee with you. Right. No, thank you very much. And it's been a pleasure doing it, to be honest.
I wish you all the best there, James. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right. Now we go to Harry Brown at Auchmaliddy Mains in Maud in Aberdeenshire. And Harry, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me along.
And Harry, congratulations on being shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year. And we'd just like to catch up with you and find out a little bit more about what you do there.
Yeah, that's no problem. Thank you very much.
Maud there in Aberdeenshire, you're up near Peterhead there, so you're up in sort of North Aberdeenshire, in from the coast.
That's correct. Yeah. Maud was famous back in the day for the big fat sales that it used to hold at the the old Maud Mart there. So Maud had a bit of influence in it in its day. It used to Smithfield used to base the weekly price on what Maud made on the Wednesday. So it was a big fat centre back in its day, but no, it's sadly no longer there.
Like a lot of markets do. And you run a 200, I think, limousine, top quality limousine cross suckler cows there. And what sort of size do you run on those, Harry?
Predominantly limousine. We've got the one Angus bull, but predominantly limousine onto that. They tend to tick a lot of boxes for us. They suit our system and suit the we sell our own beef and that as well. So they suit us fine.
Okay, so you're running those suckler cows and you're finishing those, and we'll go on to your beef outlet in a second there, which is obviously a major success. But talking of successes, you've been in and amongst the Christmas Classic show in Aberdeen and the Spring show as well. And you're a man that has shown a few fat stock beasts over the year and won your fair share of that too.
Yes, that's right. We've shown. Well, it goes back in Dad's day. He started the show, and he was sort of more. We showed at Maud Mart, and then he was more a carcass man himself. And then ourselves, we sort of took the live show in a bit more serious, and we've had a good go over the years. And we do the carcass side of things as well. There's a local show at New Deer there every year in the summertime. That's about maybe 70 fat cattle at it, and if you win it, you're doing well. It would be probably the strongest summer show of cattle there anywhere in the UK. It's a really strong competition, like.
And do you sell a few youngsters before we go on to your finishing cattle? Do you sell a few youngsters on to other people to take on to the shows, or do you just keep all for yourself?
I sometimes sell some at the spring show, and we also sell heifers with calves at foot and that. So some of them have got potential as well. So, but predominantly, we're fatting, 95% of everything on farm. So. So that's kind of our passion, really, is the fattening side of it. It's kind of, we've done that for a long time, and Dad's time and Grandad's time. So we've been at it a wee while now.
But I think you've had a change, and they say it's an ill wind that blows nobody any good. And I think the COVID side of it, you saw an opportunity after the COVID lockdown there to start marketing some of your own beef, and that seems to be gone from strength to strength, Harry.
Yes. It was a wee idea we had. My father always fancied having a butcher shop. He supplied a lot of local butchers for years and years, and always had a long eye for a butcher shop, but never maybe quite took the plunge. But and we saw this sort of as an opportunity and a compromise between the two. So. And it, we did a trial first, and then it's just grown and grown since then. And and we've got, plans to do more in the future and that. And, we wanted to, it's good to be able to go and meet the people that's actually buying the stuff you produce. I felt, you bred them, you fattened them, sent them away, and then that was it. You never really heard any more about it, apart from an odd local butcher. But now, we're speaking to our customers at the end of the day, and it's great to get the feedback from them, and we're always learning as well.
Well, that's I think the whole idea of the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year is looking for progressive farmers who are looking to go forward and to improve their business, and certainly you have. And what sort of size? Let's just look at the sort of size of beasts that you put in there. You're putting your own fat cattle away. Somebody will be slaughtering those for you, and what sort of size of carcasses you bring back in?
Yeah. It tends to be, it's heifers we'll keep for that job. The steers either go to Woodheads and Turriff or ABP or Macintosh Donald. They tend to go to, we want to get them between 680 and 700 kilos. But the heifers that we use for our own butchery side of it, I would say maximum about 630. But if they're about the 610, 620 is a nice sort of weight. It's, it gives you a decent gross because, your costs are the same, your killing charges, your haulage and the butchery is all the same price. So you're wanting to, it's okay doing the little ones, but they've got the same cost. So we find about 610, 620 is a sort of fine
live
middle
kilo.
of the road.
Live kilo.
Without steaks and stuff being too heavy, obviously, and too big. So
sure. There is a different, almost a different market, isn't it, when you're selling direct to the end user, because they're seeing the product there, they're seeing the fat cover on that, they're looking at the meat they're getting, and as you said,
definitely.
That's a great opportunity for them and for yourself.
It is, and I think what sets us in a unique position is, the cattle. There's so much variation of breeds out there. Maybe somebody goes into the supermarket and gets a good steak one day, and then they go back in, and it's not so good next time. You've got so much variations out there. At least with the way we are doing it, they're all, they're fed and brought through all the same way and slaughtered roughly about the same age. Same breed, same feeding regime, and then it's hung on the bone for minimum 30 days as well. So, what we're finding is people saying, your beef's consistently good. So consistency is the thing. I
understand consistency, absolutely. And what about the whole beast? I've spoken to one or two people before marketing their own beef direct to the public there. What about the whole animal? What about the front end and the chuck and the mince and that? You managed to get the whole animal away through that outlet?
Yeah, well, actually, being honest, we could sell more front end stuff than we've got a guy that makes pies. He makes for us, and he has his own pies business as well. So he's hoovering up all our shoulder steak and front end stuff. And then we've a good following for our mince and that as well. And there's a company in Ireland that does meal kits. So they sometimes maybe every month they'll come to us and they'll take all the mince from one animal. So they're shifting a fair heap of mince. So I think the balance is not bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then of course we sell our own burgers and that as well at the markets, cook them, and so no, front end stuff's not really a problem.
Okay. And are you making your own mince and butchering your own beef there, or are they coming back ready butchered?
No, the butcher we use in Huntley Forbes, Rayburn, he does the whole thing for us. We just go and pick it up, vacuum packed, labelled, ready to sell. So it works fine. It works fine.
And you've grown your business online, as I said. The COVID lockdown, people started to realise that you can get a quality product online as long as it's consistent and comes with some good recommendation. And that side of it must have grown, and you'll be selling down across the country now, I guess, through the internet. It's sort of side of things we're sort of looking into and sort of pushing, and that. The focus for a start was keeping it local, and we're fortunate in the area we're in. We've got probably 4 or 5 villages round about us, and they don't have a butcher shop, so we've kind of tapped into that as well. So and then the local farmers markets, Ellen and Peterhead. So and then a wee bit of mail order as well. It's something we're kind of, looking into growing at as well. Mm-hmm. Certainly a profit a profit to go into the end user with the added value. But local produce you mentioned, and you are very keen on local produce, as we all should be, really educating people where the meat comes from and the fact it doesn't need to travel a long way to get to the end user.
No, that's right. I mean, right here in the heart of central Buchan here, it's one of the biggest. Aberdeenshire's one of the biggest fattening counties in the UK, if not the biggest one. So we don't need to be taking beef from all over the country or all over the world for that matter. We've got it right here on our doorstep. The best you'll get. So,
as you said, the farm shops and the stalls and that do help to educate people on that front there. And one side of it, I suppose, as you said, you've got a guarantee because it's Scottish beef and it's Aberdeenshire beef. But you get involved with QMS. I think you've used QMS as they're a good guarantee, aren't they? The quality meat Scotland.
They are, yes, that's right. I think it's a recognised brand and that as well. So we use that alongside our own sort of brand that we're creating for ourselves and that. And when we started out, we wanted to keep it that it was just homebred animals we used, so we can tell the story right back. And but QMS was very supportive and helpful to us, and still are. We still get the odd strange thing crops up that we need to phone for advice, but. A
great advisory service, and I read somewhere that you had supplied beef to the Lord Mayor's banquet in London on a couple of occasions. I think how did that come about?
Well, that's actually back in Father's Day.
Okay.
It was through the old Amco back in. Dad put a lot of cattle to Inverurie Scotch Meat and Amco, and so he was selected, I think, 2 or 3 times to go to the for a bar and a beef to go to the Lord Mayor's banquet twice, I think so. And then we're actually looking through some old paper cuttings there, and there was an animal from here went to the opening ceremony at Covent Garden, spit roasted at Covent Garden opening ceremony. So
brilliant. Well, all that helps with your marketing, of course, with a quality product. With the people like to also buy a bit of history, and I think you're 3rd or 4th generation there farming there. Yeah.
Yeah, 4th generation. That's correct. We we've got we made up a board. It's quite a big, sizable board with paper cuttings. From recent right back in Father's time, and it creates a lot of interest. People like to come and read it, and it's just to show them a bit that we've been here for a wee while, and we do know maybe a wee bit of what we're doing. We're not just new startup sort of thing.
But that's
good to let them know that there's a bit of history behind it.
That's exactly what it's about, isn't it? To be able to market that extra, just to keep yourself going and use that experience from the past.
Yeah, I think people like to buy into the story, I think, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Well, congratulations on being shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year. And just before we sort of wrap this up, you better tell our listener, because we've got listeners all over the world here, if they can buy some decent quality beef. I might be a customer myself. Is that available online there? Where do we find that?
It is. If you look us up on Facebook, our contact details are there. Our website's currently under construction, so Facebook's the best way to get in contact with us, and we can send beef anywhere you want. The world's a small place.
Well, hopefully we'll bring you a few customers in through that. And as I said, congratulations on being shortlisted, and good luck with it. Are you coming down to the Agriscot event yourself on Wednesday?
Yeah, we'll be down. Yeah, my wife and will be down with the kids and that as well. So we're very much, we're very much a family farm here, and the wider family as well helps as well. So it's and we've a keen young lad works for us, and his sister too. So we've a good team. Behind every man there's always a good team sort of thing. But no, we'll be down there for a look on Wednesday anyway.
Well, I'm looking to do a live podcast through there, and you are of course a customer of Harborough, and I'll be running Harborough sponsor our podcast, and I'll be round about there. And what products do you use from Harborough in your process?
Oh well, there's quite a lot of different. We bought it's a barley like a 30% barley balancer. We use for the fattening side of it, and we use Harborough minerals for the cows. They're Grampian Super Suckler, and they've a local shop and store not far from here. So we there's lots of different things that we'll buy all the time from them. But that's kind of the main. Uh-huh. The grazing mineral, well, all the cattle minerals comes from, and the barley balancer and the molasses and all that, it goes in the feed. So they're a good firm to deal with anyway. You're
a good customer. Well, do pop into the Harborough stand at Agriscot there and grab a cup of tea. And if I'm about there, it'd be nice to speak to you. And as I said, I wish you all the best with winning that award there. Harry, thank you very much for your time on Top Lines and Tails.
No bother. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Cheers now. And the third one to be shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year are the Richardsons from Upper Seymourstone in Oxenden, Jedburgh, there in the Borders. And I did try and catch up with Ian Richardson, but they are very busy this time of year housing cattle, and we couldn't quite manage to squeeze him in. Hopefully we'll speak to him later on next week at the Agriscot event. And just to run through the Richardsons, well known to a lot of people for producing a few good suckler calves, and they run 500 commercial cows and 500 cross ewes there in the Borders, and exceptional stockmen, both of them, with fantastic attention to detail, which is what's brought them to the attention of the judges of this event. And the Richardsons will sell the quality stores through United Auctions at Stirling and at St Boswell's. Usually 180 or more 6-month-old calves in the autumn, and the rest would go as yearlings in the spring. And as I said, producing quality calves, and they do turn out individual calves, which are often bought up by the young farmers clubs for the rallies over the winter competition, and have done very well in that one. And recently they've won the bull calf in the Scottish and Northern Charolais Club 50th anniversary suckler herd competition, so no strangers to the limelight when it comes to winning prizes, and more so they were exhibiting cattle at the recent Agri Expo, which I was there to witness, and some great cattle they had there at Carlisle and that fantastic event just a few weeks ago. The Richardsons they are customers of Harborough, of course, our sponsors on Top Lines and Tails, and they buy their beef stock nuts from them, and very pleased with them, and they've written articles and various things about how well they're doing for them. They buy pro-grain and grain processing and protein concentrate, Rumitech, which we heard earlier on from one of our other shortlisters there that does them very well. And this summer they've been buying bespoke mineral buckets for bulling and bespoke cow minerals as well for housing to pre-calving. Producing a lot of forage there. They do have mineral analysis regularly done, and this is followed up with rations specifically made to fit their own requirements. And they grow their own barley, and some for whole crop and some for combining, and they use the bulk of the grain for feeding their own livestock in-house. So, and congratulations to the Richardsons for being shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year, and congratulations to all three of the competitors that have been shortlisted for this prestigious award. And so I'm hoping to be bringing you a live broadcast from the Agriscot event, which is in Ingliston in Edinburgh on Wednesday the 16th of November, and a show packed full of a variety of livestock, although primarily maybe started out as a dairy show, and for all I'm going to be trying to bring you some results and chat with some of the exhibitors there. We're also going to try and make an effort to chat to some commercial farmers, and particularly dairy farmers, and you might find me rounding about the Harborough stand there doing a few recordings. Pop in and say hello, or pop in and see Harborough, or you might find me ducking and diving, and you never know, I might thrust a microphone in front of your face there and ask you to have a quick chat with us. So we're looking forward to being at the Agri Expo next week, and as I mentioned earlier on, congratulations to the three contenders who have been shortlisted for the Agriscot Beef Farmer of the Year award, and the award winner will be announced at the Agriscot there, and one of you obviously will become that winner, and but there are no losers in this event, so congratulations in getting shortlisted there, and we'll bring you the prizes and results as soon as we know. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. As always, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Harborough, and hope you found this week's episode of Top Lines and Tails slightly different. As always, we try and bring you the best there on our weekly livestock podcast.